There are certain issues which are afflicting Pakistani society. In fact, they're tearing apart the society, and I'll raise them one by one. And if you could, for instance, employment, major issue. How do you want to address that?
Uh, you have to address it, of course, in all possible ways, and you have to. Unemployment has two reasons. One, of course, there is the economy is not growing sufficiently. It's so to absorb the people coming into the job market. The other is that perhaps the people coming to the job market are not the people the market needs or wants. They are not the trained people that we need. And another issue is that maybe there are too many people coming into the market. Absolutely. And I think we suffer from a bit of all three, in the sense that, of course, the economy is mismanaged because the people who run it have no idea how to run it. There is a mismatch also because we do not have the right educational structure in place. There is too much of an emphasis on college, university type education, blue collar education, if I can. I'm sorry, white collar education, if I can call it that. Everyone wants to go and graduate and get an MA and that's what the system seems to be doing. It seems to be generating MAs and BAs by the thousands, and this is degrading the value of those degrees, and it's not producing people who can do real work. And what needs to be done there in education is that you have to have a program of technical education where people can also develop skills that are really needed in the economy. Skills like carpenters and technicians and mechanics, and there are a whole range of skills that are needed in any economy that are not now being provided through a structured approach. They're being done in a haphazard, ad hoc kind of way, where people just stumble into those professions. So that needs to be addressed. And finally, the third point is very, very important, and that has to do with controlling population growth. I mean, we are just, there is no strategy, there is no concern about this explosion that is continuing to occur in Pakistan's population. And if it continues like this, for sure, no matter what you do with the economy and how you manage it, ultimately there will be no jobs because there will be just too many people. So it's a kind of a integrated approach that one has to take. It's a holistic approach. You cannot separate one element from the other and just focus on it. You have to look at the whole problem and attack the whole problem.
And is it possible to bring people above the poverty line, eradicating poverty? Is it possible?
I see no problem. I see no problem. Given what we have in terms of our resources, it should not be a problem. But you have to manage it. You have to plan for it.
There are some figures which say that something like 70 or 80 million Pakistani people are below poverty line in real terms.
Yes, I'm not saying that it will happen overnight, but I am saying that it is possible. And certainly it should be the objective of any government to bring its people out of poverty, and this should be the top priority. And in some sense, everything that a government does should be addressed at this basic problem.
So that's the prime concern.
It's in terms of the economy, it's absolutely the prime concern.
You mentioned of industry, lack of energy or electricity, let me put it this way, is literally crippling the industry in Pakistan.
Yeah.
How are you going to address this scenario?
Again, just gross mismanagement is responsible for this. Gross mismanagement, and at multiple levels. Certainly generation people, the governments that have been in power, these are long-term projects. You cannot decide today and that you are out of power and expect it to come by December like the minister there was promising. It's not going to happen. You have to plan for these, and we have just not planned, and it has to be addressed. So we have to now move towards putting in the generating capacity, and the solutions can't be short term. Like these days you see this talk of rental power plants and all that. This is nonsense. I mean, this is extremely expensive power. There is money changing hands under the table. Foreign companies are coming in and impoverishing an impoverished country even further. So this is, these are just these little games our politician friends are playing. And it will enrich them at the expense of the people. and it won't be long-term power. You know, you have a rental contract, it expires, you're done.
You mentioned of agriculture as the backbone of Pakistan's economy. Water, in the current environmental scenario, keeping in view the environmental scenario as well, water is going to be a scarce commodity.
Yes.
And we are already facing a very difficult situation as far as water is concerned. So do you think we have enough resources, or we will have to do something to generate enough water to keep our lands fertile and keep them?
Well, you know, we have this wonderful gift of these rivers that pass through our lands. And now the issue of running out of water, I think what you perhaps are referring to is climate change. That if the rains fail, or if the ice caps in the Hindu Kush
ice is already melting.
Is not replenished at the rate it has traditionally been replenished, then the water flows will decrease. Now that's something you have very little, of course, you know, any one of us have very little control over, and there is a realization that this is happening, and if not in the government, at least there are people in the NGO sector who are already looking at this issue, and there is an organization called Pani Pakistan which is doing a lot of good work and trying to bring this to the attention of people, and you have to sort of work with these people, see what ideas they have, what they've developed, put in the sort of conservation measures, the kind of backup measures that you will need. And I think, you know, technology allows you to do a lot of things, which allows you to use your water more carefully. There is a lot, for instance, in our methods of agriculture, there is a lot of water that is lost in transmission, and that can be looked at. It can include like linings for canals. It can include better irrigation methods, the use of drip irrigation, for instance, instead of the kind of flooding that we do now, and a lot of water is lost to evaporation or lost to the ground. So there are a lot of things that can be done, but again, the issue is you have to have someone in power who appreciates these and then does something about it.
Because water is already a point of friction between different provinces.
Yes, and I think that this will have to be managed.
In fact, lower Indus, if you come down,
Yeah.
it's getting dry.
Yeah, I think this has to be looked at, and it has to be managed. I don't believe that there are no solutions to problems. I think every problem has a solution. If you put your mind to it, you can solve it. Sorry, go ahead.
Solutions such as Kalabagh Dam, you mean?
That's a good question. I'm personally not in favor of very large dams. They do a lot of damage. There is some short-term gain. They cost a lot of money. They displace a lot of people. There is some evidence to suggest they result in seismic changes which can cause earthquakes, and they have limited lifespans. So I'm not in favor of these large dams. I'd be much more inclined to look at the concept of barrages, for instance, to raise river levels along certain points of the path, so that you look at the Sakhar barrage, for instance. It's a magnificent structure, and it was built, I think more than 100 years ago, and it's been serving our needs for so long. And these are perhaps the sort of I think we have to give up this idea of these massive foreign-funded projects that are of limited use and limited lifespan. They solve a problem, but temporarily, and they result in huge debts, and they cause a lot of environmental and human damage also. I mean, whole populations, whole villages have to be relocated from their ancestral lands, from their graveyards. It's not right. It's not right that you should be doing this kind of thing, and the government insisting that people have to move from their places to make way for a dam. And plus they carry this huge political baggage, where, as you can see, there is a big dispute now with Sindh saying, we won't.
Sindh and WFP as well.
Yeah. There are, so why get into this? Let's not get into these controversial issues which are of limited economic value, perhaps.